Hello everyone, welcome to the cloud learning series using the CloudMart application. So as discussed in the previous video, we will start with an application. We build and deploy it locally in the phase 1, but before even that, I would like to discuss the application architecture. We will quickly go through the application architecture view, how it is, and the technologies behind it. So it's a simple multi-tier architecture. We'll start with very simple and realistic application which uses the basic multi-tier architecture. The user will be there, he uses the browser, it connects to the front end, and the front end connects to the backend API, and then it actually connects to the database. So to get into that in detail, so let me show you this. So here is what a multi-tier architecture. So we have this front end. So this is backend. This is database. So for the front end, we are using the React and Node.js. And for the backend, if you look, there are multi layers here. So we are using the Spring Boot for the backend API. If you closely look, there are multiple layers here. So we are actually using the layered architecture at the backend using the Spring Boot. It has multiple layers: control layer, service layer, repository layer, and there is an entity. And there is a DTO as well. Like actually it all comprises as backend, and then it connects to the database. So before we actually dive in and understand the application business logic, let's try to understand what these layers are. So the simple definitions are here. Basically, each layer, it's called a layered architecture. So the primary goal is basically each layer is actually have a separation of duties basically. So when it comes to the controller acts as an entry point for the application from the backend perspective. So it actually processes the HTTP request. It receives the request like get and post methods from the client, and it validates that request, and then it passes the response back. It actually passes that request to the service layer, and when it gets the return, it also gets that HTTP response back. It then passes to the client. So service layer, it acts as a brain. So the service layer is actually like it contains the actual business logic. For example, if user wants to purchase a product and placed an order, so like when there is a product, it actually needs to check whether the product is in stock or not. In case if he has applied any discount or a coupon, it calculates the discount. So all the business logic lies here. So and there is a repository layer. So this is basically responsible for communicating with the database. So it operates all the CRUD operations on the database. So when it comes to entity, so entity is basically, it represents the database directly. So it has this direct mapping to the database scheme. So like think of it as like a specific book or a specific product. In our case, it's basically a product. So what the product and how the product looks like. The product has ID, and it has its name, description, and what's the price of the product, whether it is in stock or not. So all the details related to the specific product, it has that mapping defined in the entity, wherein the repository actually what operations can be performed on top of that product. So it provides the CRUD operations for the products. So anyhow, it has this database. We are using the PostgreSQL here. So it has all the core data related to the products. So coming back to the DTO, so it is basically a data transfer object. It is actually the responsibility of this DTO is to communicate between the client and the application. So it has different layers actually. So it is a specialized data container, especially designed for API request and responses back. So to keep it simple, entity is basically how the data is stored in the database. When it comes to the repository, how actually the data is read or written from database. So DTO is how the data is exchanged with the clients and the application. So it could be the client could be the regular front end, or it could be some Postman or any API call, any further other APIs or any mobile apps, anything that actually interacts with the application. So service is where actually the business logic defined, and the controller is the entry point which actually process the REST API requests. Now let's understand what exactly the application is. So the CloudMart, we are planning, like we are building a small e-commerce website, and like it is also a order management application. So the user can be able to manage those products. We can create customers and place orders and track those orders. So like we are not actually building Amazon style application directly in phase one, but instead we will start with simple but realistic application that grows step by step throughout this journey. So what exactly we are going to build? So the application will support 4 different modules. So we have the product management module, we have the customer management, we have the order management, and we have the health check module. So in the presentation layer, if you see here, so browser, so React.js, it's a front end. So there is in parallel, there is a Postman and API client we have added here, but these two are separate entities. This basically helps us to connect to the backend. So backend, again, we are using the layered architecture here using the Spring Boot application, Spring Boot. So it has a controllers and it has a service layer. It has this repository layer, and each controller, like there are different 4 modules as discussed: product, customer, order, and health controller. So each module like exposes a different APIs. So it uses the REST APIs. So product module is basically responsible for managing the items in the CloudMart, like what the CloudMart actually sells. For example, laptop, mobile phones, keyboards, and etc. So when it comes to the customer, so the customer module is responsible for managing the CloudMart customers. So customer is basically is someone who places the orders. So it has some kind of details like the customer ID, what is the name, email, phone number, all those details. So when it comes to the order management, so order management is basically responsible for placing and tracking the customer's orders. So it has direct link to the customer and the product. So there is a health check module. So this health check module is basically small, but it is very important part of the backend. So it has this /health backend API exposed, which basically these endpoints help us to verify or check whether the application is running or not, whether the application is up and running or not. Finally, the application connects to the database. Database is where the data actually resides. Now let's try to understand the business flow. Like before even that, like if you look at the API workflow, so the user connects to the front end actually connects to the database backend, and backend actually connects to the database. So there is a user requested, open the CloudMart UI, and then front end gets that browser loads that front end. As soon as the page loads, it actually fetches the products from the backend. It makes a call to the backend makes a call to the database further returns the response back. Similarly, like when there is something operation that has been done, like user has submitted a product form that adds some product into the database, so it takes that, so front end makes a call to backend, so it sends the request to the backend, and backend actually makes a call to database. It just insert that product and it gets the response back. The response could be either success or it may be failed. It also shows that information back in the browser. So now let's understand the different modules that we have. So as we have already discussed, there is an order management module. Before even that, there is a product management, there is a customer management module, and the order management module. So each module is designed to perform some business operations or logic. It has, so product management module actually takes care of the product. We can view the product, we can view the product by ID, we can create and add products, we can update the products details, or even we can delete the products. So customer management is actually responsible for the customers to to manage the CloudMart customers. So like creating the customers, view the customers information. In case if you want to retrieve some information about the customer by ID, we can do that. So order management module, so it is responsible for placing and tracking the customer orders. So it directly connects to the 2 important parts of this backend, that is basically a product and customer. So it uses the customer information as well as it uses the product information when we place an order or create an order. So there is a health check module. So it actually helps to identify the health check like the health of the application, if we can verify the application is running or not. So let's understand how this business module have the relationship within them. So one customer can place many orders. So from the customer, when they place an order, so they can place multiple orders. So one order can contain one or more number of products. So when it is an order, it has a list of products, that is an order item. So order item is nothing but as a part, like it has a multiple products. So again, here the relation is basically one product can be a part of multiple orders. So, but the three primary business objects are product, customer, and order. So when you see the relationship, so a customer can place an order. So an order contains one or more products. Each product has a price and the quantity details, and it can be also a part of multiple orders. So in this phase one, when we are actually building it, so the thing is what to expect in this. So we are building a core logic, core backend functionality, which includes like the product CRUD APIs. So which is like customers API, orders API, and health check API. So it also includes the basic structure of that application. So to have the glimpse of that application, how it looks. So here it is what, once we have the local deployment done, so it will have the UI up and running. It will fetch the details of products from the database and it displays it. So we don't see the advanced core functionality yet, but in the first phase, what we do, we actually pull the data from the products database and we display those product details like this. So we are yet not expecting that user login, payment gateway, and shopping cart. So we'll further grow this. Like these advanced features can be added in the later phases when we work on that. So this is what about the application architecture and the application overview and the business logic. So again, the three core components actually exposes multiple REST APIs as shown here. Like it has this get and post methods defined, multiple APIs defined for each module. So this is what about the complete architecture and application overview. So let's jump into the hands-on. In the next video, we will build the application and then we make it up and running, and we will see the application like this up and running. So see you in the next videos. Bye.